Hello there, only One Kenobi here, only one. Welcome to a very quick fire episode of Only One Fans. And this is going to be a catch-up, so it's only going to be questions today, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be the voice notes I've received for One Voice, and also some other remaining comments, questions I'd like to answer. So there will be nothing else, so I'm going to get straight into it. And just one last thing, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, if you would like to leave a voice message, please do. If you want to qualify to get onto an episode of Only One Fans, One Voice, leave a voice message. It could either be a question or just a statement, like this. This is something I received recently. I thought I would play.
Hey Nick, it's Peter Gordon McKinnon here, the PGM show. Hey O.O.K. Just want to say this. I loved your conversation with Shabby, Stu and Tim. It was brilliant, and a great conversation with the points that you brought up. Fantastic. I thought it was just awesome. Just wanted to reach out and say I loved it immensely. Cheers.
So thank you for that, Peter, and if you want to see that live stream, please do. I shall leave a link to that since I've mentioned it in the description of this video. But it was a good chat, that, so thank you for leaving me a voicemail there, PGM, and brilliant. But if you don't want to leave a voice message, please, ladies and gentlemen, just leave a comment, ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section of this video. Or hell, send me a message as well if you want to, and I will pick it up, and if it's a good one, I'll answer it. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get the show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Only One Kenobi, you're my One and Obies, the Only One Fans. Let's kick it off. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I get today's show up and running, I'm going to start with this question here. So before we hear any voicemails and we start One Voice, I want to talk to you about this question, which was so difficult to answer that I actually passed the book. And I put it over to two buddies of mine I have in a WhatsApp group. And it's from Matt Drace. And I apologise, Matt, in your message you'd said that this was your entrance to win the patch, but unfortunately I missed this because you were supposed to comment on the community post to win the patch. So we had that draw last week on the live stream. But still, here is your question. And you wanted to know which figure has shown the greatest improvement over its, and then there's a bit of a break there. But you're saying which figure has shown the greatest improvement over its previous release of the same character. And this is, not a million miles away from a question I answered in the previous Only One Fans, but it is a really good one and it's hard to answer. And so I opened it up to my mates, but before I talk about what they said, and I'll let you hear what one of them said, I'll just give you some thoughts of my own. And it's such a hard question to answer because all of them have made a good transition, or Hasbro have done a very good job putting these classic characters into the modern realm. I mean, there's a few characters that are going to be brought up into this episode that you're going to see, like things like Woof, and the Gamorrean Guard comes to mind. But the thing about that is, he was always a good figure. So I was thinking to myself, well, what was, say, a crap figure that they've updated better than any other? So I put it over to my pals to see what they said, and they had things on their mind that I did too. Like Vader always comes to mind, but Vader again, the classic 80s Vader was always a good figure. It really was. I remember when I was a kid looking at that sculpt, I just thought I was so happy with it as a toy, as a kid. You know, they've obviously subsequently done very good updates to it. But so in this group I've got is Daniel Char and Mike from Solo Shot First, and they threw a few ideas out there. And I'm going to play a little bit of Daniel's message.
Hello, boys. Now, there's two ways I look at this question. If it was how a figure has improved from its first ever incarnation to its newest version, i.e., let's take Darth Vader as an example. The first ever Darth Vader figure, you know, the vintage one, was it was a good sculpt and it looked the part, but it was very limited in its articulation, and it wasn't, you know, really realistic, was it? Compared to the latest Darth Vader, then there's, massive change and so much better. Same with the Gamorrean Guard. Even though the Gamorrean Guard was a reasonable figure back in the day, this new one all over it. R2-D2, you could argue, the first ever R2-D2, again, as good as it was for its time, it just had a sticker on the front at the end of the day. Whereas the newer ones, they're sculpted and moulded, and, you know, it's much better. I always look at figures for their like realism, how realistic they are compared to the actual thing. That's because I'm a sucker for details, as you know. So I don't know. I'll have a think about that, because that is a good question. But like I said, it depends on which way you look at it. I would take that question as from the first ever version to the latest ever version, comparing those two figures. But I don't know. What do you boys think?
And then Daniel went on and showed a few images of, for example, the Ugnaught here. He pulled out that. I mean, this is just, again, another character in the 96 that you've got some epic modern realizations of that character. Obviously, it's not in TVC yet. It should be. But look at these two. They're just so good. Echoes what we saw on screen. This was a good one, though, and this has kind of convinced me. When Daniel got in touch with this, which is the X-Wing pilot, and a figure that... and that's a figure I never had as a kid, the X-Wing pilot. But I suppose one could have used their imagination and pretended it was any of the pilots. Wedge. Whoever. Rogue 2, sorry. But this is quite a good one. I like the way he's chosen this, because, I mean, I tip my hat to this figure anyway. This is the VC, that really good Luke Skywalker pilot they made recently, because it was just like one of the first times we've seen a really good, eventually, finally, a good Mark Hamill. You know what I mean? So if you take that aspect, that they've got this brilliant new head sculpt, and then if you look back at the one figure out of the original 80s that didn't look anything like Luke Skywalker, because you couldn't see his blonde hair, as I say, a lot of kids probably would have used their their Luke pilots for any generic pilot, because there's no trace of Luke really. Again, you can't see the blonde hair or any of his features. His lightsaber's not visible. So to that respect, it is the ultimate upgrade, isn't it? Because now you've got a removable helmet. You can see that it's Luke, and it's a bloody good head sculpt. It's brilliant, practically perfect. Way better than they've ever done before for Luke Skywalker. And of course, as you know, they've done the Luke Jedi now, and they've done the Yavin figure. And all we're looking for is a farm boy. That would be pretty good. So yeah, I think I'm going to make that my final answer. And I'd wish to thank my friends there, because it's a bit like on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when you can't think of your own answer and you're going around the houses. Phone a friend. So I wish to thank Daniel for his input there, and also Mike from Solo Shot First. Cheers, boys. And I hope that answers your question, Mr. Matthew Drace.
What's up, sir? Just got done listening to your video, and I have to agree, the AT-AT driver, the AT-AT pilot, or however you'd like to say it, that would be stellar in TVC. Not only because the character is such a good design, but they could use the tooling to give an awesome TIE pilot, with fully articulated legs. They could do Inferno Squad from Battlefront 2. So that got me wondering, is there an original 96 character that hasn't been updated in the modern TVC line that once they do, they could repurpose that tooling to give us way more than just that? Let me know what you think. There might not be any, and then don't feel bad if you don't use the question, but I think that AT-AT mold, if they get a new one, could lead to lots of other fun stuff. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Oh man, yeah, good question, and it got me thinking. So I'm going to have to pass the buck on this one and ask the people in the comments to please let me know if you think there is any 96 character that, given a retool will help the future. But this guy came to mind, and then I sort of thought, well, there's only him really. You could maybe get some other officers, rebel officers or whatever, and recycle a generic mold for them. But really, it's all about the Imperials in Star Wars, isn't it? Let me just move these guys. Well, I'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, obviously this is an old Tarkin. It just happened to be close at hand, so I thought I'd get him. There's a 5 POA Power of the Force 2 Tarkin, and then you've got this Moff Jared. And as you know, we've got this new Imperial mold that they are going to use ongoing, and we've got a lot of things coming out. You've got Piet, obviously. I don't have a Piet yet, and you've got him, which is Moff Jared, coming out, and then they'll use that for other people. Hopefully, people like that Miro, whatever she was called from Andor. I've forgotten her name, but that was the thing about Andor. I can't remember any of these. This is a nice uniform. It's for the Rebel Alliance. I think there was a guy, in Mando season 3 when he went to Coruscant. Bo, whatever his name is, the X-Wing fighter, and he was having a bit of a bureaucratic political debate with the guy, and he was almost telling him, oh, it'll be too complicated to do what you want to do, and hitting a wall. But I'm sure he had a uniform like this, so maybe there's another guy there, and who knows what else they're going to bring out with an Andor season 2. Maybe you'll see more of this. Not Andor season 2, I beg your pardon. More Mando episodes in that sort of post Return of the Jedi era. I just don't know, but that's the thing. Versus Imperials, these guys are seriously losing out, but they could do, and they need to redo him. Let's have a look at this guy. I pulled him out for a reason, because if you look under here, he's got almost the same kind of similar attire, except this fella's got a cloak, Lando Calrissian. Not a million miles away, and then this guy had a generic sculpted gilet jacket over the top, so he's different, but he's of that ilk. He's got the same kind of chest insignia, whatever you call it. But I just don't know. That was just someone who came close to mine. I thought, well, let's pull him out and talk about him, and then get your thoughts. Yes, you in the comments. You've already mentioned TIE fighter pilots, and you could do something with an update of this. You could update another TIE fighter pilot, although we've had them not long ago at all in TVC. As for things like Stormtroopers, we've just had such good figures recently. They've all been done. There's nothing specific that's an army builder, should we say, in the TVC that I can think of that needs to be done. I mean, even if you go back to this guy, look at him. He's ball joints all over. They could improve him, but there's nothing that's blatantly obvious that needs attention, so to speak, really. But still, good question, man. It's a good one when it gets you thinking about what we have.
Here's a question for you, my friend, from Travels with Jason. Now, if there was one figure on the retro line that they've never made, which figure would you have liked if you could get it made by Hasbro or any other custom designers out there, like Stan Solo? Which is the figure you would want the most done? Anyway, great show. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jason, for the question. It's a very good one, and it's another one that gets you thinking. I'm going to have to talk in the past tense now, because, well, let's have a look at Ula here firstly. As you know, Stan Solo did a really good figure for Ula. In fact, it's so good what he did for Ula and for Garindan that, have a go if you want, Hasbro, but the quality was just so good that if you desperately wanted a vintage looking Ula and Garindan, you can go and get one, which is amazing. It just goes to show how good these customizers are. But what I was going to say was, when I was a kid in the 80s, I know they've done Tarkin now, and I've brought him through as well, bear with me. That is the figure that I wanted as a child. When I was playing with my figures in the 80s, I wanted Tarkin so badly, and in fact I wanted any Imperial officer that wasn't wearing black, because when you're watching New Hope, a lot of them are wearing the olive green, the grey, the whatever, they're not wearing black. There's only a few of the guys who do. So, but Hasbro did that, and that's one of the first things they did, and then they kind of hit the brakes on the retro collection, if you want to say that. They took a big deep dive into the modern media, if you want to call it that, the Mandalorian realm and Obi-Wan, and shame really, because it would have been nice to have seen them do other stuff that these customizers are doing. If you want, are they customizers? What's the other word that is used? Repro. Well, it's not reproduction, is it? Because it's first-hand sort of production, but the quality is great of Stan Solo. So Ula and Garandan in particular are interesting characters because, you know, they'll be in anyone's list. They're definitely in my list of favorite characters or characters that are not 96 that I would like to see in, say, the modern TVC. I mean, look at these. These are two already great modern figures, but put them on a TVC card, it will just absolutely rule my world, man. I'll be well impressed. And that's because they're great characters, number one. Number two, they were not made back in the day. And number three, they're card backs. The card backs will be awesome. Agreed? They just would be. They would be, 100%. So that's why I'm just filming these two here. But I can't even think of another character. I think I'd have to say something like, hang on a minute. Maybe she always comes to mind. And that's the same with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They're up here. They're other two characters I'd love them to see them do. I'd love to see them do. But again, you've got Stan Solo making such good quality customs, man. It's figures. That begs the question, what are you doing, Hasbro? Why haven't you done it already? I don't know. So anyway, interesting question, man. And please do, that's my thoughts on it. I can't really answer it because that was always my go-to. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on that. Interesting topic indeed, man.
All four, Scramble Code 5 to Coruscant. Okay, the old folks home. I have a question for only One Kenobi. Seeing that we have a lot coming out probably for Mandalorian Season 3, what would you like to get from Season 1 and 2 before it's too late? Cough, cough, frog lady.
Haha, cough, cough, frog lady indeed. Try and keep this quick, man, because I do have a tendency to waffle. But I'd have to say the rest of the crew for Season 1, which includes a Season 1 version of... What's he called now? Oh my god. Grief Karga. Yeah, Grief Karga. Sometimes we do alright in the 3 3/4 inch, and the 6 inch do better. Like, for example, the 6 inch you've already got a figure for... what's it called? Luthen. Yeah, you've got a figure for Luthen. That really annoys me. I want Luthen. We want Luthen, but still we don't. But we did do well with regards the Book of Boba Fett, Tusken Raiders, because you guys, it's like an us and them thing, isn't it? It really is. Yeah, you 6 inch collectors got the Chief, and we got the Warrior. And I wanted the Warrior more than anything. It would have really annoyed me if they got the Warrior and we got the Chief. It's a bit like the scenario of us getting him in Season 2. He's too looks like a mayor of he is a mayor, isn't he, or something like that. I don't know what I think he's the mayor by the Season 3, isn't he? And he's wearing even more robes and stuff, but he was looking too dignified here and a dignitary type look, but still I liked his rough and ready hanging around with the bounty hunters look, that he got in Season 1, and it would suit this. You see, that's the crazy thing. We've got a Razor Crest. Why haven't we got all the figures all ready to match that vehicle? I'm not saying that 6 inch line shouldn't have both versions of Grief Karga. That would be nice for them too, but the fact that we've only got the one, we should be the one who have two already. And they could have just the Season 2 look, you know what I mean? So, to answer your question, all of Season 1 remaining crew for the Razor Crest is a big must. I'm talking the Twi'lek, the big Deveronian dude, Season 1 version of Mayfeld. We've got the head sculpt for Mayfeld now. I think just get a body together, scramble a body together from all the molds you've got, Hasbro, and make it happen, you know what I mean? Oh, and that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Just imagine that gun on his shoulder. That would be brilliant. So that's what I'd like doing soon, and as time goes on, like you've rightly sort of suggested, the harder it is to go back. So I really actually hope that Disney stop pumping out Star Wars. They need a break. I need a break from it. because a lot of it is just horrendous looking on the horizon. But that's a separate issue. But that's the answer, hopefully, to your question. And thank you for it, Gabe. Boom.
Hello there.
Hey up, Nick. Loving the Only One fans and all the content you've put out recently. I was wondering where you would like Disney to take Star Wars. Would you like them to do old, or do something where the original trilogy characters maybe in the background, like that Rogue Squadron, or something different with the Mandalorian, or more serious fare like Andor, or just something from the books that hasn't been done with completely different characters, a completely different timeline? I just wondered where you would personally like them to, because they have been a bit uneven of late, some of the Star Wars media. I just wondered where you would like them to go with it.
Yeah, it's a good question, Rue, and I knew this question was coming up, and I started talking about the future of Star Wars at the end of the last answer I was giving, but I really do sincerely hope, to repeat myself, that they take a break from it, because I really do think it needs a break. It's got a lot of damage at the minute. Even the Mandalorian Season 2 lost a lot of momentum or edge, should we say, that it used to have. Andor I really loved. Well, I'm looking forward to the second season of that, but I'm a little bit nervous about that as well, you know, if somebody messes with the formula or sticks their aura in and inserts certain things that will just wreck it. But, you know, as we discussed on the live stream the other night, the three things that have been pipelined cover kind of a vast area of Star Wars. You've got the Mandalorian, Mandoverse, whatever you call it, the confluence of everything. That's the Filoni film. That will be good for the OT people, original trilogy, you know, that kind of era, post Return of the Jedi, I guess. That will fuse all the Ahsoka storylines with Thrawn, and the Mandoverse comes together. Then you've got this thing that was forecast for, who was going to direct it now? Was it James Mangold? The thing that is right from the very beginning of the Jedi. So that's like thousands and thousands of years ago. I've always wanted that, to be honest. I've always wanted, since I became a big fan of Revan and Malgus and all those ancient Sith Lords, way before the Disney acquisition, I always wanted to see more from that early era of the old Republic, man. I think that would be an awesome idea. But they still haven't gone there yet. Maybe that they're going to push the boat out with that era, with this upcoming movie. And then the third movie was the Rey movie, and that's for the people who are fans of the sequel trilogy, which must be in the vast minority. I just think they should have just left that alone, really. I mean, it's very difficult to, because it's part of the episodic Skywalker saga now, forever. So it's 7, 8, and 9, isn't it? And that's a big... Well, that is a third of the overall arc of the Skywalkers, which is frightening, because it was very badly received, and I didn't enjoy it at all, really. Sorry. I did not enjoy it. I know people did, but there's some nice things that I saw, but overall it left it in ruins, man. Hell yes. So I think generally, to go back to answering your question, I think they could do with taking a break from all of it, to be honest with you, because the Acolyte's coming out, so if that goes tits up, or it's not well received, then it's big trouble. People are walking away, man, in droves, and they ain't gonna come back. Anyway, only time will tell. Always does. And there's just one final question, and it is from Bradley Harvey. And I'm sorry, Bradley, I thought I'd answered this already, but it's only because I've been discussing very similar, or dealing with similar questions in a roundabout way, in the same kind of ballpark, in overall looking at the TVC and 3 3/4 inch quality. But you asked, what do you think is the best vintage collection figure, and why? Yeah, well, thank you for your question, Bradley, and I'm going to have to refer to this guy again. I can't stop talking about this guy, or you referencing him, and I'm not alone on that one. A load of people do whip out Woof, but it's just such a good figure, and let's discuss why maybe he captures a lot of people's hearts and minds. With myself, I never even had Klaatu in the 80s, so I don't even have a nostalgic pull with this guy like I do for Nikto. As I like that figure because I used to have it in the 80s, and Gamo Guard and things like that I had as a kid. This guy never had him. So he's not the best figure, he is one of the best, and he just looks so good, and it's a well-made figure, and he's not even perfect in terms of he doesn't have ball joint hips, that's for one thing, and not that it really matters, but what it is I was thinking more and more about why I always go to this guy, and I'll never forget first seeing him on Sith Lord 229's review, and he was talking about clones, and then he's talking about, that's how he talks, good old Steve. But this guy, I think it's got to be the face, isn't it? Because, when you look at a character in any line of figures, what do you look at when you look at anybody in society? You look at their face, man. You look into their eyes, and his face is just so incredible. The detail and the colour, and look at that, like the pimples on him, and so reptilian and interesting. I love where I have him as well in my collection. I have him stood right up there on that top part of the galleon, you know what I mean? It's the sail barge, but that top bit there, he looks so good. Just stood easy, standing at ease with his pike in hand. It's just a great figure. It's a really good figure. It's an alien, so it's like I'm a big fan of the human characters in Star Wars. I love Imperials. So I'm just grabbing figures at random that are just down below on the shelf here. This is just a load of stuff I've been dealing with recently in recent videos below here, but I like a lot of, so people might think I'm speciesist. I'm not. I think I love all good characters as long as they look good and make an impact. I mean, this is somebody, I love the fact that this is somebody who doesn't even speak in the film, but look at him. He's right up there on my own personal list. And do you agree with me? I don't know. Let me know where you'd put a character like this. But again, it's hard because there's so many good figures in TVC. I could have the Gamma Guard up here again and Nikto, but I talked about them not long ago. But I actually think that this figure is a better figure than those two. So that's why I'm only pulling out the one, and it's him. He would be in my absolute top 5 all-time TVC, without question. But you did say TVC, my friend. He's not my favourite figure. As you know, we've got Anakin Skywalker is in that realm. Hang on, bear with me. This figure here, I can always love the opportunity to talk about that. That's the best Anakin. One of my favourite figures ever as well. But I won't waffle on about him. I've done that many times before, but maybe another time I will. But for now, to answer your question, Bradley Harvey, I'm going to talk again about Woof, formerly known as Klaatu, a brilliant TVC alien figure. And what better time to talk about him again than the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it there, because I think I am up to date now with the backlog I had of a few other questions from a while ago, and some newer voice notes that have come in, and I do enjoy receiving them. And if you would like to send a good question, man, send it on Instagram or Messenger, voice note it, and I will capture that and I will put it into an episode of Only One Fans. And if not, please do leave a comment below in the comment section of this video if you have another question that you would like to ask, something you would like me to talk about or to show, whatever you want. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there because it's actually quite late that I'm editing this episode here on the Monday. It's now 10 to 6, so it's pushing it fine for me to mix it down and put it out. But as ever, thank you for everybody who has been watching live. If you're watching on the replay, thank you too if you've made it this far. And do join me again for another episode of Only One Fans. It will be episode number 25, a quarter of a century of episodes, if you want to call it that. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I've been Only One Kenobi. You've been my one and Obies, the Only One Fans. Ta-ta for now.